All right, thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Salt Lake City School District Board of Education public meeting. It's 5 o'clock on Tuesday, June 7th, 2022. We're here now for the purpose of convening a closed executive session for the purposes of litigation, negotiations, and/or property, as well as character, professional competence, or physical mental health of an individual, and/or deployment of security personnel and devices or systems. Can I entertain a motion for that?
President Ford, on June 7th at 5:02 p.m., I move that we convene a closed executive session for litigation, negotiations, and/or property, and for character, professional competence, and/or physical or mental health of an individual, and/or deployment of security personnel, devices, or systems.
Thank you for the motion, Catherine. Do I have a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Bryce. Thank you. We'll go ahead and vote on the motion, beginning with you, Board Member Williams.
Bryce Williams, yes.
Jenny Sika, yes.
Catherine Kennedy, yes.
Nate Salzer, yes.
Mohammed, yes.
Melissa Ford, yes.
Christy Sweat, yes.
All right, thank you. We'll go ahead and close this meeting at this time. Thank you. Sam will let us know. Thank you. We'll be back live on YouTube at 6:30.
Thanks, Emily.
Thank you.
I'll turn them down, but they may be on so Mohammed can hear. Yes. And we have white noise now out here to.
Okay, are we off? Sam, not quite. Thank you. Hold up just a minute. Smells good. That was fast. First, Sam.
I know, right?
Thanks,
Okay.
Mike.
Do we have somebody to do the, I'm going to ask Erika Rao. It's okay. Is that okay? Hey.
I'll make this to Jenny.
Sorry that we're late, guys. We have a Jenny.
The white ones are turned off.
Stand up and just come to her. Where would she stand? She could only just help you.
I could tell.
Okay.
That just worked through it.
Are we having,
Stand
I
up
mean,
on
is Lydia joining
in
us
front of
today?
this table.
Lydia has COVID.
Has what?
I'll call you up.
Oh, she does?
Yes, so she is very, very sorry she can't be here.
All right, thank you for your patience, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the Salt Lake City School District Board of Education meeting, public meeting. It's Tuesday, June 7th, 2022. I'd like to welcome our superintendent, Dr. Timothy Gadsden, and our business administrator, Alan Kersley. We've got 6 members of the board present, and Mohammed Baid in someplace sunny and beautiful, but he's joining us remotely. I'd like to welcome those who are here in the room with us, superintendent's cabinet members. I see some West High admin, and we've got some teachers here, and I appreciate you all coming out tonight, especially after a fun weekend of high school graduations. It was really fun. I've asked Anika Rao, student at West High, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Anika. It's always a pleasure to have students here. Superintendent, we have some recognitions tonight, and I know that a couple of these came as a request from a few of our board members who support West High, recognizing the West High debate team, which seems like we do that annually.
I know,
so
right?
Congratulations to them. It's awesome. It's awesome that they do so well, and then the Science Olympiad as well. So, Superintendent, do you have something you'd like to?
So Mr. Guido is here tonight, and he is going to recognize our students from West High School.
Would you just come up to one of these microphones? Thank you, Mr. Guido.
Thank you for the honor tonight. We are very proud of West High students. I'm going to read a blurb if that's okay. So today we honor Crystal King and her students at the Science Olympiad. On April 8th, the West High Science Olympiad team competed in Utah State Science Olympiad at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. After a full day, 3 teams, 30 students, and 42 events, our high school division team won first place for the state of Utah. They received an invitation for the National Science Olympiad competition. On May 14th, the team competed in nationals hosted by Caltech, and it was held online, and there the team took 47th, and they also received 160 bags of popcorn. So that was nice. And then Susan Raymond, congrats again to our debate team. I have the results here. I won't go over them now, but the past spring West High debate team earned Region 2 championship, and it is the second consecutive 6A state championship. And in their state championship, the team accumulated a total of 108 points, and they took second place, and the team had 73 points. Every team member earned at least a point toward the team total, which is unique and rare. And below, I have some of their medals, and it is vast. So,
Will you share that with us?
Absolutely. Can I email it to you?
Yes, email it to us.
Okay, I'll email it to you. That way it's
awesome.
on the record.
Yeah.
And we're very
You
proud.
can attach it to the minutes of the meeting
and if
as
I can
well.
just take a personal moment, thank you everyone who came to the West High graduation. Thank you for the kind video. It was a magical moment, and it makes it all worth it. Just the students at West High, sometimes they can be casual in the halls, and sometimes they can be cool in the halls, but to see them Twitter-pated and hearts beating, ready for their graduation moment, it just made it all worth it. So we appreciate everyone's support. Board Member Sika, thank you for the wonderful speech, and
it
was a fun time.
It was a win.
brevity is key. Brevity is key.
Speech.
So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Guido, for being here. We appreciate that. Now, Superintendent, we want to recognize the retiring teachers,
Yes,
right?
did she give you the list of retirees?
She didn't.
I'm trying to find out who
Okay.
has the list.
So, always I feel like we have the best teachers in the state, and it's always sad when teachers retire. I'm happy for them, sad for us, and we like to recognize them. I'm told that there are 45 retirees, not all teachers, but also some administrators and other employees who've been with the district, and we do want to say thank you and to recognize them. Last year, I think we recognized them by name, but if we don't have that list, then we'll just say a huge.
Is this in your folder?
It's in this folder. I'm going to go ahead and read them, and we'll. Huge thank you to them. I'm going to need my reading glasses. Carrie Hardy, who worked for 22 years as a registrar. Glenn Hawes, 17 years as a bus driver. Judy McKinley, 26 years finance specialist. Dolores Parsons, 13 years as an assistant manager. Marianne Plumridge, 25 years, administrative secretary. Andrew Reeve, 30 years, head custodian. Stephanie Sands, 22 years, administrative assistant. Patricia Shanda, 31 years, administrative secretary. Allison Sysom, 31 years, budget analyst.
Analyst.
Karen Westover, 22 years bus driver, and Lorna Woodson, 42 years custodian. That's all of our classified retirees. Thank you. These are our certified retirees. We have Judy Jardine for 28 years as a teacher at Beacon Heights. Margaret Wolf, 31 years, a teacher at Beacon Heights. Dahlia Cordova, 39 years, principal of Benyon. Linda Okabe, she's near and dear to my heart at Bonneville, 24 years. Also Dorma Lindsay from Bonneville, 26 years. She taught all my kids. Thank you, Dorma. Suzanne Perry, a teacher at Dilworth. Roy Talk, a teacher at East. Taught my kids to drive. Kristen Adams, Coach Talk. Kristen Adams is 26 years, a teacher at Ensign. Blair Lyon, 32 years, a music teacher in the Fine Arts Department. Jacqueline Conkling, 29 years, teacher at Highland High. Marianne Akers, 33 years, a counselor at Highland High. Christine Moray, 33 years, a teacher at Highland Park. Mary Roberts, 33 years, a teacher at Highland Park. I'm getting emotional thinking about this. Tony Simmons, 30 years, teacher at Highland Park. Suzanne Gray, 33 years, teacher at Horizonte. Kathleen Olson, 27 years, a teacher at Indian Hills. Julie Taylor, 31 years, a teacher at Jackson. Ann Draper, 22 years, a teacher at Jackson. Lara Dean, 30 years, a counselor at Liberty. Jeannie Yeske, 28 years, a teacher at Meadowlark. Ronald Brian Jensen, 11 years, a teacher at Newman. Nita Sorensen, 27 years, a teacher at Newman. Carmen Edgel, 25 years, a teacher at Nibley. Moselle Prestwich Orton, 6 years, executive director. OSL and HRS. Heather Reed, 24 years as a physical therapist in student services. Gloria Shirley, 30 years, educational specialist, teaching and learning. Carol Tyre, 30 years, a teacher at Uinta. Jeannie Gardner, 10 years, a teacher at Wasatch. Julie Adams, 32 years, teacher at West. Robin Chandler, 32 years, a teacher at West. And Mary Lou Wrights, 20 years, audiologist, Whittier, special ed. Thank you so much. That's a lot of years and a lot of dedication to the students of our school district. Thank you so much. All right, we'll now move to our consent agenda. There's a lot on it, and I would be open to accepting a motion on the consent agenda from the board.
President Ford, on June 7th, I move that we accept the consent agenda consisting of the purchasing and accounting reports, the purchasing report from fiscal year 22, the purchasing report from fiscal year 23, and both of those reports in Excel format, the budget report for April 2022, the payment voucher report, and the school's financial report dated April 30th, 2022. The Human Resource Services report, the tentative agreements from the Salt Lake Education Association, the Salt Lake Association of School Administrators, and the classified employees. The proposed salary schedules, the minutes for the board meetings of May 3rd, 2022, May 17th, 2022, May 24th, 2022, and June 1st, 2022. The annual review of the Children's Internet Protection Act, case number 22-076, and board policies G26, I8, I19, P10, S8, and required board resolution for the Utah retirement system.
Thank you, Board Member Kennedy. Do I have a second to that motion?
I will second.
A motion by Catherine and seconded by Christy. Do I have any discussion to the consent agenda? I would like to say thank you to the negotiation committee from the board, and that included Business Administrator Kersley and HRS Director Logan Hall, and then to thank the representatives from our employee groups. Mike Harmon is here. Amanda, remind me of your last name. Sutton, Amanda Sutton is here. I appreciate you being here. We had other great team members from the different classified and administrator groups. I know some of which are watching online. I felt like it was a intentionally supportive negotiation process, and I appreciated that. Also appreciate the work of the board policy subcommittee. There's a lot on our agenda that reflects your work, and so thank you for all you're doing for that. And to obviously always to our business administrator, who's probably leaving to make sure the lights stay on. He's got all kinds of things in his job description, includes keeping the lights on and opening the door. So it's just a thank you. Do we have any other discussion to the consent agenda? Seeing none, let's go ahead and vote, beginning with Board Member Williams in Precinct 1.
Bryce Williams, yes.
Jenny Sika, yes.
Catherine Kennedy, yes.
Nate Salazar, yes.
Mohammed, yes.
Melissa Ford, yes.
Christy Sweat, yes. Sorry.
Nope, that's perfect. Thank you. That takes care of the lengthy consent agenda. Thank you. We don't have anybody signed up for a request to speak. So the next item on our agenda is the public hearing, which is on the agenda. It's on the budget and on the agenda for 7 p.m. We probably need to wait until exactly 7 to start, so we've got a minute. So do your worst in the next minute. And at exactly 7 o'clock, we will begin the public hearing on the 2022-23 budget. Thank you. Yes, Board Member
Maybe
Sweat.
while we're waiting for that 7 o'clock, I just want to thank our business administrator, Alan Kearsley, for the work that he does for the district and keeping an eye on our budget. I think that it's always really difficult sometimes, to take us through everything. But he's done a really good job, and I just want to compliment him on that and thank him for a great job done.
Yeah, I'll second that. And also for keeping the lights on.
Yeah.
Literally and figuratively. Yeah.
Oh, 7 o'clock.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock, so we'll now open the public hearing on the 2022-23 budget. Do I have any requests to speak? Thanks, Mike.
Mike Harmon, resident of Poplar Grove in Salt Lake City, and I appreciate the board's support on increasing taxes slightly. I know it's important for some people because they're on fixed incomes, but I think it's a small enough amount, but it certainly sends a message to our teachers and our employees that their work is valued, so we appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you,
So I
Mike.
support your budget.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. We support the work you do as well. Do I have anybody else who wants to speak to the 2022-23 budget? Do we need to keep it open for a certain amount of time? Okay. All right, then we'll go ahead and move toward the item E on our agenda, which is board action on the budget. And it's the approval of the 2022-23 annual budget, the revised budget for 2021-22, the budget for the fiscal year 2022-23, and the 2022-2023 proposed tax rate. So this is an opportunity for the board, if we have questions, or to discuss still with the business administrator, and then to take action. So I would be open to a motion on the budget after our questions or discussion. And as Board Member Sweat has already kindly noted, our business administrator has done a very good job of making sure that as board members, we've had an opportunity to engage with the budget and to ask questions and make sure that the budget reflects the priorities that we've set. And so if board members have questions for the business administrator, if there's something you'd like to say about the budget, Alan?
I just want to know, on the org chart in the budget, there is a spelling error, and we're also going to make a couple other clarifications on that. As this is the draft version, before we finalize that, we'll just add those clarifications.
Okay, thank you for that.
And President Ford, it might be important to note that, that we all had the opportunity, I think we took the opportunity to meet with Alan separately in small groups.
I think you met with everybody, yeah,
Uh-huh.
or most everybody,
And,
yeah.
to review the budget, so we had time to go through it carefully. With, and actually, Business Administrator Kersley did go through it step by step with our group and through every section, and I appreciated his attention and talking through many of the important details.
Yeah, we appreciate the work that goes into it, the executive summary and the information that you provide to the board, and then the numbers themselves. We really do work hard to make sure that the budget reflects our priorities, our values. It's supporting students in the ways that we want it to support. Resources are finite, but we do want to make sure that they get to where they need to support students. Christy?
Thank you so much. Thank you again, Alan, and I appreciate the clarification on the organizational chart. Thank you very much. I think Superintendent, what I would like us to possibly take a pause on is the Executive Director for Organizational and Strategic Leadership. I think that that job obviously expanded. We didn't really know. I mean, the description wasn't really what it was in the beginning, and so I think until you really have a good idea of what that job's going to be like, I would just like to see us put a pause on that one for a little while until we really know what that job entails.
I don't really know if I understand what you mean about the job description.
So I think
expanded.
originally that we talked about that it was going to be the student achievement plan, that would be the primary job of that specific person. Is that right?
No, that wasn't the primary. That was one of the things that person would work on. There's a whole job description that the board approved for that
Right.
person, and there were several things in the job description that were starting to come online, but the job description hasn't changed, or the job duties of that person since the time the board approved the actual job description that was put forth.
So I think that that would be a great refresher then for us, to be able to go back through that, and really understand that person's job and make sure that it's in alignment, with the approval process that we went through. That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I think this would be a good opportunity for us to, in a future meeting, discuss that position and how we might best utilize it.
Yes, ma'am.
I would second that from Christy. Thank you.
The only other
Thank you,
thing that
Superintendent.
I just wanted to mention is, our essentials that have been in place for a number of years have certainly proved over time. And I appreciate the way that it's written in the book, Alan, and how it ties back. I think it's important that the essentials tie to our budget, that it, obviously, for the vision and mission of the district and the resources. So the way that the budget book is put together, I think, is an easy read for our community. And I would just direct them, to that organizational section. And I think it starts on page 37.
30, yeah. 30
Is it right?
something.
Is that 37?
37.
37. So I think that those essentials, we all have a lot invested in those. And so thank you again for the way that it's set up.
Yes, and then I know, in our discussions that this will be, it's an ongoing conversation as well. The budget is a working document. We use our resources to support our students and our employees, and we want to do that. We want to make sure we're using them the most effective way to support them. And I know that our business administrator has some good ideas on how to continue to make that process more effective and efficient and transparent, and I appreciate that, so thank you. I would be open to accepting a motion to approve the 2022-23 annual budget, and would you like, to read that
I have
motion.
specific language to the motion, so
Yep.
whoever wants to make it, I
can do that.
And is it different than what's attached? Okay.
And of course, I can't get to my attachments. Thank you.
So he's got it printed.
That would be, this whole big oh, okay. Did Catherine say she wanted to know? Okay, I move that the Board of Education approve the revised budget for the fiscal year 2021-22 as it has been presented to the board during this meeting on June 7th, 2022. The board also approves the budget for the fiscal year 2022-23 as it has been presented to the board on this date. The board also declares that it intends to increase the board local levy necessary to generate $1.5 million. These funds will be used to increase employee salaries and benefits. As the tax rate shall exceed the certified tax rate that will be set by the Salt Lake County Auditor, the board will hold a truth in taxation hearing in accordance with state law. In addition, the board authorizes the business administrator to make any budget adjustments necessary to reflect funds received from the final approved tax rate.
Thank you, Christy, for the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do you want to read it?
Okay. So thank you for reading that language. So we have that specific language in our minutes. And I have a motion from Christy and a second from Catherine. Do we have any discussion to the motion?
Catherine was
Catherine?
first. I'll go after her.
Yes, I just want to clarify with Alan that we're actually not increasing the tax rate. We're keeping it the same. Is that correct, Alan?
Yeah. The legal terms are an increase because it will be higher than the certified tax rate.
Right.
What we'll be doing is holding the rate steady from what it currently is, and we won't have it drop.
Exactly.
you know.
So the tax rate is not increasing, it is holding steady. Is that correct?
It's holding steady, but by law, it's
Right.
listed as a
Right,
tax
right,
increase.
Which is why we will hold a truth and taxation hearing in August. And
Really
you-
important that people know that we're keeping it steady and that we are not voting to raise the tax rate.
And we are using these funds to support employee salaries and benefits. And when we do that truth and taxation hearing in August, then we will look at the specific dollar amount increase for a taxpayer, which, as we discussed, is not very much. You have, I mean, you do it per $100,000 home, and it's maybe $4
It was either 2 or 4. It was,
somewhere in
yeah,
that range.
per year.
Not on nobody owns a $100,000 home in Salt Lake anymore.
Nobody
But for ease of doing the math, there you go. We don't do that thoughtlessly. I mean, it's something we take seriously. We know that there are people who are on fixed incomes, and it's not an easy thing to do. But it is a commitment that we have made to want to make sure that we are supporting, what we consider to be the best employees in the state.
Yes.
So
Melissa,
thank you.
may I make one comment?
Yeah, please.
I'm just going to repeat what you said, Melissa. I think that it's important that our community and our taxpayers know that this is very specific to our teachers and to our employees. That of a salary increase for an increase to employee salaries and benefits. That shouldn't always be the district's responsibility. That should be legislated. And I really appreciate, that our district is committed to our employees to make sure they have a living wage and that they can afford to live in Salt Lake. It's a difficult time in our city, and I think that there's a lot of things that we always need to be cognizant of, and definitely is that living wage. So I appreciate the work of this board and the work that went into the negotiations because, as you said, Melissa, we did not take this lightly. And I think it's important that our taxpayers know the reasons why.
Thank you, Christy.
And I would just reiterate that that rate is not going up $4 per 100,000. It is actually just not decreasing
Right.
$4. I
Yeah.
think that's really important. I think it's hard for people to understand that. I think we just need to make sure that our constituent groups that we represent understand that, and that
Thank you, Catherine. You're right, it is complicated to understand.
it's a complicated thing. And I, again, would completely support the fact that we're able to offer our teachers and our employees more than what the legislature has allotted this year. We're grateful for what the legislature allotted. We always wish it were a little bit more, but this allows us to give our teachers and our other employees a little bit more.
Okay, thank you. If there's no other discussion to the motion, we'll go ahead and vote, beginning with Precinct 7. Christy Sweat.
Christy Sweat, yes.
Melissa Ford, yes. Go ahead, name.
Nate Salazar, yes.
Catherine Kennedy, yes.
Jenny Sika, yes.
Bryce Williams, yes.
Okay, that,
And Mohammed, yes.
thank you, Mohammed. Sorry, we couldn't see you, but thank you for
I
that.
know you're good.
All right, thank you. That concludes board action on the budget. Thank you, everyone. Now we'll move to the report section of our agenda, and the first item is an inland port report. Superintendent.
Yes, so we have a representative from the Inland Port here. She'll introduce herself, and she wanted to update the board. We have some new board members, and the port thought it was time to come and give a report to the board.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity. Will someone else move my slides along, or do I have that
Back here
opportunity?
in the corner.
Okay.
Need to
The
let 'em know
magician
when-
in the back.
We appreciate that. And again, I appreciate the opportunity and the invitation to come today. My name is Jill Flygar, and I am the Executive Deputy Director of the Utah Inland Port Authority, and was asked today to come and provide, as the superintendent said, an overview of the Utah Inland Port Authority, along with an update on current projects and the value proposition to Utah and to the community here in Salt Lake City. Again, as the superintendent mentioned, several new board members to Salt Lake City School District, and we also embrace the opportunity to provide overviews of the inland port. I think often, first off, it's a very complex organization, complex concept to grasp, and so being able to provide information holistically about the organization and who and what we are and why the inland port exists, we always embrace that. If we can go ahead and go to the next slide. The Utah Inland Port Authority is an independent, nonprofit political subdivision of the state. It was created, I think most of you are aware, in 2018 by the state legislature with the intent to fulfill a statewide public purpose. And the Port Authority's goal is to improve economic opportunity and advance environmental sustainability, at the same time improving reliability, increasing efficiency, and reducing costs in the logistics system. Next slide, please. I'll also mention that as we look at logistics is a system. Logistics does not care, so when we're talking cargo flow, doesn't care about an artificial boundary that the state legislature drew. So if you look at this map here, I know it's a little bit difficult to see, but it's a blue outline in what is known as the northwest quadrant of Salt Lake County, and you all live here in Salt Lake City, so you know where this area is, and it really was just drawn by the state legislature. But cargo could care less about this boundary. It's going to move and it's going to flow through Salt Lake City, through West Valley City, and through the rest of Utah and the United States, with or without this boundary. Right here. And so we really look at logistics and how cargo flows as a system, and how can we improve the efficiency of that system, not just here in Salt Lake City, but throughout Utah and throughout the rest of the United States. So if you look at this jurisdictional area, it is approximately 16,000 acres with 7,000 acres of undeveloped land in this area. The land is held by private landowners, and developers with vested interests in the land. Municipalities maintained their land use and permitting authority throughout the entire jurisdiction. The Inland Port Authority does not currently own any land. We do lease some land and a couple of buildings, but we don't own any land, and we do not hold any land use authority at all. And so the power, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute, is around partnerships. And how do we garner partnerships and utilize those to really convene and again, help with this system. Next slide, please. So why an inland port? Why Utah and why now? By the numbers, we can tell a pretty compelling story. Utah is the fastest growing state in the nation. We have been since 2010. We're the 13th largest geographical state and 82% growth in GDP over the last 20 years. When you look at logistics follows population. And it follows the economy. It's not the other way around. And so when we look at population growth and we look at how the economy is growing, logistics is going to follow that. And we also, as you look at Utah, over a third of our GDP, a third of the workers and a third of all of our wages are logistics dependent. And if we look a little deeper and we look at bigger and broader reasons and purpose, then it tells an even bigger story. Next slide, please. Utah has often been known as the Crossroads of the West. We've all heard it. We all, those of you that were educated in Utah, fourth grade, seventh grade, Utah history. By the way, used to be a teacher. Taught seventh grade Utah history, and then high school AP US history. 11 years of my life, public education. I loved it. Love those kids so much. But you know, Crossroads of the West. We've all been taught this. But this map right here really highlights how and why that is. You can see from the West Coast, the three main West Coast ports funnel directly into Salt Lake City. And they funnel in both via road and via rail. And then they immediately funnel back out into the rest of the United States. But those goods don't just come into the West Coast and back out into the rest of the United States. They come from the east through Utah back out to be exported via the West Coast as well. So we truly are the crossroads, not only of the West, but are becoming the crossroads of the world, right here in Salt Lake City. So looking at this, and as part of our strategic business plan, we identified 4 objectives in which everything we do must align. First, position Utah as the leading trade and logistics hub. Second, advance sustainable and smart supply chains. Third, be a responsible steward of the environment and of the surrounding community. And fourth, effectively manage the resources. Next slide, please. Additionally, our mission is to provide smart, sustainable, and equitable supply chain solutions through facilities and infrastructure, partnerships, and capital investments. Next slide. If you bought it, a truck brought it. If you bought it, a truck brought it. Each of us play an integral role in logistics, and the Port Authority is thinking long-term, requiring critical short-term strategies. We believe that we provide the missing link in the system that brings public and private investments to bear, because we can take a long-term view of things, and we are able to invest in that critical infrastructure and look at the system in a more holistic way than it's ever been looked at before. 2 priorities that the port are really investing in are modal shifts in transportation and a more sustainable form of transportation. Next, please. We are looking at commodities and how how we can shift their modes. One of those, I'm going to look at 3 specific projects. The first is investing in a state-of-the-art transloading facility that leverages the proximity to UP's existing intermodal yard, providing cost-effective alternatives to the West Coast-based operations. This transloading facility will transfer goods from smaller international containers to larger domestic containers, aligning with our mission of promoting sustainable and smart logistics. The port's investing in this facility to, 1, enhance transportation access to Utah shippers, 2, create shipping options and connectivity to international markets, and 3, because there's no dedicated transloading facility within this region. Next slide, please. The Intelligent Crossroad Network, or ICN, is the first 5G network dedicated to logistics and supply chain. Fundamental to the network is connectivity, and collecting even the most basic data requires access to high-speed networks. And ports are located in areas where wireless access is almost non-existent, and if it is, it's very unreliable. 40% of all ports in the United States have little to no connection at all. The ICN will allow the port to better understand volume, to understand and share traffic information, reducing idling time, identify underutilized routes, and understand how location, seasonality, and other factors impact traffic. All of these things combined will help us, together with other partners, improve the air quality in and around Salt Lake City by reducing air emissions. Next slide, please. Working collaboratively with Stadler Rail, the Port Authority would like to partner with Salt Lake School District to provide educational opportunities and apprenticeships in the soon-to-be-built Community Kitchen and Daycare Center on the Stadler campus. This center will provide opportunities for hospitality and pre-K education while creating a space for the workforce in this area to get healthy meals, outdoor activities, quality daycare, and a community space, all at an affordable price. We're really excited about this partnership and to continue the standard that Stadler has already set for apprenticeships in this area. And next slide. Finally, our strength is in our partnerships. We have over 24 partnerships that lay the foundation for transforming global logistics and trade patterns. These partnerships are helping us build a stronger community, reduce air emissions through alternative fueling stations and infrastructure that will remove trucks from our neighborhoods and the sides of the roads while reducing truck idling by over 1,100 hours a day. We are at the crossroads of the West, and we're becoming the crossroads of the world, and we are doing it the right way by building it sustainably and smartly. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions, and if you don't have any, I again appreciate the time to come today, and at any time, please feel free to reach out to our office, and we're happy to come to any of your areas and meet with your constituency. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Jill. Do I have questions from board members? I appreciate this report. Oh, go ahead, Catherine.
Is it anyone else? So thank you for being here and for giving us this report. I am interested in your environmental sustainability claims. I think they're ambitious, and I hope that they're successful. I'm concerned about the proximate position of the inland port stations to 2 of our elementary schools in particular, very, very close. And it seems to me almost impossible for those trucks not to emit, and trains to emit pollution. We know that highway pollution has a direct link to a bunch of cancers and childhood cancers like leukemia. Children who have leukemia are 50% more likely to live near heavily trafficked roads. So that's enormously concerning to me. And I appreciate what this has said. I'm just really concerned about it. I love the fact that you're a public school teacher. That's wonderful. When my kids were in 4th grade, they did reports on the Great Salt Lake, studied the Great Salt Lake. And I'm concerned about the 10 million birds. I think there's 338 species that live in the in and around the Great Salt Lake. I'm worried if we have problems with the cancer in our students, then I think we'll have problems with our cancer or other ailments in birds, in the bird population. The Salt Lake is a breeding ground for eagles, grebes, pelicans, cormorants, herons, terns, gulls, and, of course, we're also a throughway for many, many birds. So I'm very concerned about that. And like I said, I love these ideas. I hope they're successful, but I don't think it's a good idea to be a Crossroads of the West. I don't think that's a selling point. I think being a Crossroads of the West is not where we want to be because of the pollution that goes along with it. And I'm very afraid that Utah will suffer greatly from the inland port and its byproducts. And I like I said, I appreciate your coming here. I appreciate hearing about it. I know that it will probably bring products faster to people. We already have an Amazon fulfillment center. My friend ordered something a few blocks from the fulfillment center and actually had it in about 30 minutes. During the pandemic. So yeah, it was quite astounding. And it was actually it was an oximeter. She needed it, but she did get it. So it was great that she got it, and that's how I know about it. But so those are some of my concerns. I'm concerned about our children that are playing on playgrounds right adjacent to where these trucks and trains are going to be coming. And I'm worried about our greater environment and this great throughway that we have, this magnificent throughway that we have. And, that it being located right there, I mean, I'm not sure that there's a great place for it, but it just really concerns me. I'd just like to hear some of your comments about that.
Thank you, Catherine. Go ahead.
Thank you. And I agree with you, with your comments, and I appreciate your concerns. And so thank you for the questions. A couple of things. I'll start with the Great Salt Lake, and I'm going to go backwards a little bit. If I miss anything, please let me know. So the first thing with the Great Salt Lake, I think there are a lot of partners that need to come to the table, because this is a much bigger problem than just the inland port. But some of the things that we can do, and we are doing, is establishing a buffer zone between industry and development and the Great Salt Lake. So that buffer zone has been established and set up. We additionally are putting into place conservation easements. So not only the buffer zone, but conservation easements to ensure that there will never be development long after anyone today who is making these agreements they cannot go back on them. So those conservation easements, but still a lot of work that needs to be done. There's a lot of work being done on stormwater and that within the development areas as well. Some of the work and some of the progress to the concerns around the schools and the adjacent neighborhoods. We've all heard, you can't change what you don't measure. Right now, we have no data, that no one in the state has collected anything in this area, and so that is one area in which we are really digging in around how many trucks are actually moving in this area right now. What kinds of trucks are they? And when we have a clear picture of what that is and how many trucks will be added because of the growth. Please remember that this is private development. It's going to grow with or without an inland port authority. We're trying to drive the growth in a better trajectory than it would if it just haphazardly happened. And so the data good data informs good policy. And to date, we don't even have any data to inform policy. And so that's the first step, is getting the data so that we can make good and better policy moving forward. And then as we start to make those decisions, and we can transition trucks to cleaner trucks, put in the infrastructure around EV, potentially hydrogen, other types of alternative fuels to increase and reduce the air emissions in the area. Pulling those trucks out of those neighborhoods that are parking and idling all night today is a step today that can be done, and improves the quality of life for all of our all of the constituents in those neighborhoods, and reducing vehicle miles traveled, period. So when you transition cargo to rail, you are reducing vehicle miles traveled. I know people have they have a vision of what rail looks like, but the emissions coming off rail is 75% lower, greenhouse gas emissions lower than a truck. So anyway.
Can I just follow up with a couple?
Yes, please.
So I guess not everything does come by truck then to us. Some of it comes by will. I do appreciate the difficult position you're in as you answer these questions. I don't think they're easy, good answers. And I do think we may not have specific data about this area of our city or our state, but there's a lot of data about emissions and health effects on the entire population. Yeah, and I think that this is really an equity issue as well. I mean, it'll be bad for everyone.
I agree.
But it will be particularly bad for the residents on our west side, in our west side districts, and for those children in those schools.
Yeah.
And they're not from the most empowered areas. I think like I said, I think it'll have a consequence on all of our students, but it will have a very specific consequence on those students. And it seems wrong to me, to tell you the truth. It seems wrong to me to have that important. Like I say, I appreciate your being here. I know it's not easy, and that I'm asking you some hard questions, but I do think it's a situation. We also have a no idling policy in Salt Lake City, and so those trucks, if they are idling for 11 hours at night, or however, they shouldn't be, so that should not be happening in our city anyway, and we should be following up on that no matter what. And so bringing in more trucks and reducing idling, that may be a great ideal, but I don't see that having a big long-term decrease in what the port will bring, the kind of pollution the port will bring.
Thank you, Catherine. Christy,
And please know, I appreciate the questions. It's no.
I appreciate your being here and being so open to answering them.
Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead,
Just
Christy.
going to echo the same thing that Catherine said. Thank you for coming. We appreciate you being able to provide the information that you did tonight. I heard you say several times, about partnerships and how important that is. I think that more of a statement than a question, but maybe there's a question that's mingled in there, is that there is a lot of data about clean air in the valley and the emissions and the things that we've been dealing with, throughout many, many years in Salt Lake City. The inland port was something that definitely was, I think, the cart before the horse in regards to impacts to the city, and especially, our schools and our children. So I would hope that as you talk about partnerships, that you really do look at a couple of things of how you conduct your business when you talked about good and better policy. So looking at being collaborative, looking at making sure that your meetings are open, for the public to be able to come and make comments, that the decision-making process is clear and transparent, so that as a city, that we really, I know we have a place at the table. I think our mayor, is there, or a representative, is that correct?
A city council member.
City council member, that's right. And that is big because that's not how it started out. But I think that the impact on the city is real. And, to be able to be a true partner, I would hope that those are the things that you would go back, and talk a little bit about in regards to the traffic, the clean air. There is data. Please reach into the mayor's office. There's, Nate, what's that? Can't remember the name of the Clean Air Commission that we have. Oh, my gosh.
Okay.
Anyway, there's lots of data, in regards to that. So I think that, Jill, if you would look at that in regards to, as you're talking about good and better policy and that partnership, with the district, may seem like it's kind of on the outskirts, but yet, as Catherine's pointed out, in regards to the kids and the traffic and the emissions in the air in our valley, it's something that we're all very concerned about. So thank you again for coming and providing the information, and hopefully, we'll be able to continue to see that movement in those areas. Thanks.
Thank you. Superintendent? Oh, Nate, go ahead. Nate, then Superintendent. Yep, thanks.
Again, thank you, Jill. And shocking, I'm going to talk about the emissions piece in the sense that, I think the school district's done a really good job in partnering with the University of Utah. Also through partnerships with our state legislature representatives, Senator Escamilla and Representative Romero, Representative Hollins. So both of the schools that we've been talking about tonight, also UTA, we've had monitoring equipment on both of those schools and on the trains and the tracks and the front runner that operate in that area. And there's, I think, a solid baseline that I think you're probably aware of and that Inland Port's probably aware of too, and would love for you all just to continue to reference that in the spirit of partnership as well. You're probably aware that we have a really solid sustainability plan to reduce the school district's emissions as a partner and as a employer and as just an institution in our city and in our state. And really hope that you can continue to work with us. And I'm sure that the district and the University of Utah would be happy to continue to provide that information and data along the way so that we can make sure to address the inequities in our air quality and particulate matter in our city. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Mr. President, may I clarify one? When I was talking about data, I should have been clearer in my statement. It was not around the air emissions, which we do have a really good relationship with DEQ, and I've been to the monitoring stations and I know exactly where they are and get that information from DEQ all the time. It really was around truck traffic. And we're getting there, working with WFRC and others. I just want to clarify, it was not around the air emissions that I was specifically stating. So thank you for letting me clarify that.
So it's called Clean Air Utah.
Clean Air.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christy.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jill. Superintendent?
And so, Jill, I know there's not much you can do about it. I have put a plug in. I am a member of the advisory committee, so I serve in an advisory function. But I think in order for the Inland Port to really be a good partner with the school district and really hear about the impact and understand the impact that a board member should be a part of that board to help really explain the impact on our district, how the port could benefit our district and others. And so I have to keep putting a public plug in for having one of our board members be a decision maker on the Inland Port Board.
Thank you,
On the-
Superintendent.
Could I ask, on the board, not the advisory, is what you were plugging?
Right, and so I think it's perfectly fine for the superintendent to be in an advisory capacity, but I think one of our board members should be in a decision-making capacity.
Thank you, Superintendent.
Thank you.
Do I have other questions? I appreciate you coming.
Yeah.
And I think what I would say maybe is directed at you, Superintendent, is we've been discussing partnerships and things. I think there'll be opportunities for partnerships, and I just want to make sure that those opportunities come to the board.
Yes, ma'am.
And the board has an opportunity to hear what you're discussing in terms of those partnerships. Thank you so much, and thank you, Jill, for being here.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Thanks, Joe.
That's a lot of information, and you're knowledgeable about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up in reports is the secondary reading program. And for that, Dr. Hall and Dr. Maloof.
Yep.
Thank you.
No Dr. Parsons tonight, huh? Kidding, Dr. Hall. Welcome, Dr. Maloof.
It's a break.
Nope, just us
I
tonight.
appreciate you bringing this to us. It's good for us to have an opportunity to see in the process and how you're looking at supporting our goal of literacy on the secondary level. Well done.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and I've just handed out a little handout. Am I one short? I have emailed it to Board Member Bade as well, who is not with us tonight, or with us in technology tonight, I guess I'd say. So we're happy to have just a second to review. Hang on, Sam, I'm turning it on. Look at me go. Okay. How it is that we adopt curriculum in the Salt Lake City School District. So the first piece that I've handed out to you is a little chart, and what that chart shows is how the USBE, the Utah State Board of Education, reviews our core standards every 7 years. And so they will go through a process of public review. They build a committee, they look at the standards, review the standards, make any updates, work with their experts and community members, take public comment. I remember when I was at USBE, we had the revision around the two times ago for the ELA standards, and we had over 800 comments on cursive writing alone. So we get a lot of comments from the public about that. After that has happened and they've been approved by the board and they're then in a final stage, we move into a phase where the USBE will adopt and introduce those standards to the state, and then we in districts begin to look at our curriculum materials to make sure that they're in line with the state standards as that happens. And we have a board policy about that. It's A7, and in the administrative procedures, it does say that we will look at our instructional materials every 7 years approximately, unless there's something that happens that USBE or somebody else says, you know what, we really must do this much sooner, like maybe we discovered that, you know, the moon isn't really a moon, it's a, you know, something. I mean, the something becomes very, very outdated. And if that were the case, then we would, of course, move more quickly so that we can ensure that the textbooks that we have are accurate and up to date. We have had a recent occurrence where we went on the other side of this, and Dr. Maloof is going to just mention our recent anomaly with our elementary ELA core.
So elementary was also due to be up for adoption this year. However, due to everything that elementary is doing right now, particularly letters training, which has been incredible, but it has also been an incredible amount of time and work, and just the cognitive load of learning new things, we felt like it, unethical is not the right word, but it may be inhumane to put this on teachers this year with doing so to start next year and also be in their second year of letters. And we want it to be a really, really good rollout when we do it, and we just didn't feel like that could happen. So those were the initial thoughts around why to petition for an extension of a year. However, as we've been going through the year and looking at letters, I think that we're going to have an additional really nice outcome of it, and that is that we now have this large cadre of our employees who will be on, some of them will be on this committee, and they now have this expertise in the science of reading that they didn't have before. And so I'm really confident that we will pick a really powerful curriculum because we're waiting and we're allowing that training. So I'm not incredibly excited to go through the process again because it is, it's a big process, but I'm excited for the outcome.
Thank you, and we'd like to thank the purchasing department who worked with us to make sure that we did all of that in line with state procurement and all of those other pieces. So thanks. I think that was a really wise decision for us this year. So just a quick reminder about the procurement process. This is, as Dr. Malouf said, an enormous process, and I'd like to thank her for doing that in her first year of this job and her second year of this job. But the first thing that she did, and did an excellent job with, is she put together a knowledgeable committee. She invited members from every one of our secondary schools. She had representatives who taught honors, ELP, or magnet courses. She had members of our special ed teaching team. Parents were represented, administrators were represented, academic coaches were represented, and Tyler Barnes, our purchasing committee, said, you know, the hard part about having a very large committee is that if somebody misses, you know, they have to fall off. And having a big committee makes it really hard to schedule the days, and you've really cooked yourself up a bigger problem. I think this was maybe one of the largest procurement committees we've had. And I'll be darned if they didn't come and show up, and we got through this. And what we feel really good about is that knowledgeable team included the voices of all of our secondary schools and teachers. They were vetted then, and by vetted, they of course signed that they don't have any financial interest or other things in the product, so that they were okay to go. And we had a training from purchasing about what the process would be, the confidentiality of the process, and all of those pieces. And then they created, or the team created, I was a part of the team, but I feel like I was a quiet part of the team. I know that shocks everyone, but I think it was true. They created a rubric, and the rubric was really large. And so the second handout I've given you is just an excerpt, and that excerpt goes through all of the pieces of the RFP that really dealt with the teacher and student facing parts of this process. And it aligns with what we philosophically and educationally wanted to have in our program. And that includes everything from the standards alignment to the ability of teachers to be able to use materials in print or digitally, depending on how they were reaching their students or teaching their class, how they wanted inclusion and diversity to be represented. That was something that came up many, many times. We wanted to have a book that would, or a series of materials that would last us 7 years, that would give us high-quality reading materials, both fiction and informational text, from a diversity of, a wide diversity of writers and perspectives and viewpoints. And that was very clear in this piece. So this happened, and then the next part of that is that, and then there's a whole bunch of other legal stuff that goes with it, and it really is very, very long. And it's published on a state, or a national database, a website, so that all of the companies can see this and report to it and solicit those responses from all of our publishers. So once all of the publishing materials start to come in, there are 5 stages here, and I believe the board is familiar with this. You've been through it recently, but materials are all reviewed by purchasing, first level cut, to make sure that they meet all of the requirements. If they don't pass that first level review, we don't ever see them. The second thing is, at that point, enormous amounts of materials began to descend upon Dr. Malouf's office and the office next door and the hallway outside of both of them, because all of the programs had to grade all of the materials for each grade. And how many? Like 12 copies of everything?
Yes, we split the group into half the committee received the even numbered grades and half the committee received the odd.
It was thousands of pounds, and Chelsea just got that organized and got it shipped out, and everybody had their own set of materials to review and score using the rubric. So they scored them all independently, and then Chelsea brought them all together, and they talked about those scores, and we looked for those outliers and things that, we could immediately say, this one doesn't meet all of the requirements, or this one is, and then we settled down, and we had 4 or 5 at that point. And then, and we went through that process again and really said, who are the ones that we want to hear from? And that third stage is when we had finally, it ended up to be 3 companies come and present their program. They had an hour, and we were able to ask questions that we might not have been able to see in the process. So that was very exciting. And then we did another set of voting after that, and it was eliminated down to 2. And then, of course, at that point, those are the 2 that met the minimum threshold of points, and it becomes down to the cost. And that's not a one buyer fits all. I mean, if one is much less and one is more, then obviously they're awarded points. But we left with 2 programs that were relatively close in point value. And Dr. Maloof was very firm with the committee, I think, and I think we did a good job of saying, when we walk out here, it means that when they pull that magic price ticket, we could live with this one, or we could live with this one, and you're all going to go back to your schools and say, this is the one that we chose, and, well, they don't have to say that because they don't have to point that out, but, we're all going to support this. We're not going to go back and say the district made us do this one. We all believe that both of these are the right program for us, and they felt very comfortable with that, so at that point, we had a scoring decision based on that final pricing point, and an award was made. And so now Dr. Maloof is going to talk a little bit about how we brought our communities and our families in, and what this program looks like.
Thank you. I do just want to say, I cannot take credit for the materials distribution. My coaches were incredible, as was my administrative assistant, because not only did everyone have, boxes of physical materials to look through, but then it was hundreds of pages of online content that each company sent as well. But my coaches and my administrative assistant were really great about putting all of that together and getting it out. So thank you to them. As Dr. Hall said, we held open houses to let the community come and look at the programs. So we had intended to have four, and it ended up with 3. So we had 2 where we had both programs out and we advertised that district-wide, so not just to secondary teachers, but also to elementary, as well as parents from all levels, because if parents have students in upper elementary, in a few years their students will be using this curriculum as well. So we wanted to make sure that we had it open to everyone. And then once we had narrowed it down, we had chosen the final program, we did another opportunity to come and look at the materials. It was also an opportunity for us to dive a bit deeper into the materials, but we met some really incredible parents and educators, and some educators who have volunteered to be part of a training cohort that we will do moving forward once our professional development that's contracted with the vendor expires. So we've been looking at how do we grow our own experts from within so that we can continue that professional development, that ongoing learning. And we have, as you all know, we have some really fantastic educators, and the excitement has been exciting. Let's see. So the program is Study Sync by Mcgraw-Hill. The format of it is 6 units that covers the entire scope of the year in 180 days. One of the nice things I think about this program is if a teacher were to only get through 4 units, if they were to spend time going deeper with those 4 units, making that decision based on where their students are, they would cover the core for the year. And then if they feel that their students can move more quickly through, then they can expand it to the 6 units. But my experience as a coach, as a teacher, as an administrator, is getting through all 6 units of a program is difficult. There are assemblies and activities and different things that are very important, but also take away some of that time. So that was one thing that I liked, that students would not miss out if the class wasn't able to get to that final unit. Another fantastic thing is that they have a continuously growing library of novels that are paired with the units. So some of them there is a deeper dive, and then some of them they will read just some parts of it, but then the students can read that on their own. So it's fostering that excitement around reading, and the variety of texts is Interchangeable print and digital use, we know that that is very important after the last few years that we have gone through. And the multimedia and the tools. We had some members of our committee who were very focused on the digital components and wanting to make sure that it would sync with Canvas seamlessly and that the tools would be there for the students and for the teachers. And we also had members who really wanted some print resources as well, and this covers both of those. And the scaffolds that are in there, I've been talking with some of our special ed teachers about how they can use this to support their students because students will have an account. And one thing that we didn't put on here that I didn't think about till I was sitting and listening to some of the other things that we've talked about, one of their other features they're called Sync Blasts. And it's a weekly newsletter that highlights some ongoing things, some current events, specifically focused on social studies and science. So it's like there's this part of the curriculum that's ever changing and exciting and engaging. So those are some of the highlights. As far as professional development goes, we will begin with professional development from the vendor, and we have actually already started with that, even though things weren't completely finalized with the checks and everything. The company is actually, it's the same company that we used for elementary, so I think that they know as a district we are good on our word, and they have been really great to do that. Oh. Forget about those things. So our goal is to impact student achievement, and the big part of that is by providing training to teachers so that they don't have to go seek it out on their own, because we know that they do that and they're creating their own curriculum and they're spending endless amounts of time. By finding a really great comprehensive curriculum, which I think that we have done, we are allowing teachers to focus on the art and science of teaching and really think about how they know their students and what adjustments they want to make with curriculum that has been produced by curriculum developers who have degrees in this and can spend the time. So I think it will also free up teachers to shift their focus and how they're thinking about that. And okay. So we had our grade level sets. We sent materials out to all of the schools before they placed their orders so that they could look at, so that we had the open house opportunities, but then we really wanted them to look at what did they want their delivery system to look like. So there were 4 options of how those student additions would look that schools could choose from. And they have sent them to me. I am almost finished cleaning them up. My administrative assistant has started inputting the POs, which open for next year this week. So they're there, and we should have that done by Thursday. Everything will be ordered, and then it will arrive this summer to schools. We have professional development set up on our August days for our teachers, and then the coaches have spent some of their coaching days the last week making an ongoing professional development plan. So looking at what can we offer to schools on asynchronous days, what can we offer on non-student days if there are teachers who are wanting to work and to grow, and then what can we offer after school as options for, an hour and a half every month, just what would be really manageable and digestible. And the coaches are really excited about this, and they've also been working on an assessment plan that would lead to some deep conversations and decisions about students. And I think that covers it. If I've left anything out, otherwise questions.
And I just very quickly want to say not only to thank Chelsea, again, Dr. Malou, for taking this on at the very first year of her being here, and also to all of the teachers. It was hundreds of hours that the committee and Dr. Maloof and the coaches put in, and the amount of reading, and they really understood. I think it was interesting to work with this very large committee and see that they understood that this was a commitment we were making for 7 years. That's not forever, but it's a really long time. And if somebody is starting in 7th grade, they're going to spend their entire secondary career with us in this book. It's an expensive undertaking, and we understood fiscally, Mr. Kearsley, I promise, that we knew that we were, this was a big thing, and we did not want it to be a document that was in the closet and not used, but everything that Dr. Maloof just said, that it would allow teachers to really be able to have the resources they need to do this. So I'd like to thank everybody who was on the committee and our purchasing department. This is a huge thing for them to do too, and Wendy Kemp and Tyler Barnes were beside us the entire way. So, all right, thank you.
I agree.
Any
Thank
questions?
you for coming. Questions? Catherine?
I thank you so much. This is a lot of information, and it was a huge, huge project. Thanks. I mean, really intensive. I know that you guys have done a lot on diversify our narrative, and I know that as you chose novels and other books, that you thought about that and thought about that. Can you just talk a little bit specifically about those kinds of things? How you're furthering that, diversify our narrative, and I don't know. I think you were there, Dr. Maloof. When we had that presentation. I know Dr. Hall was there, but I think it might be good to hear a little bit about that and a little bit about how these works are representing our whole student body.
Do you want to speak to that, and I'll talk about novels?
Okay, I'll start. So thank you. That is a great conversation to get into. One of the things that we are committed to doing in the district is to create a reading list so that we can ensure that all of our students are reading throughout their high school career a cadre of excellent novels that demonstrate that diverse narrative throughout their years, because we had some wonderful students who came up and really said, if you took this plate of teachers, you might have read all of these books, and if you took this plate of teachers, I don't know why I'm calling them plate of teachers, but you know what I mean. Then you might get all the way through and
Slate, maybe.
Slate. That's what I'm thinking. Thank you very much. This slate of teachers. And I was thinking of baseball and the batting lineup, but that wasn't quite right. So that's really important to us. And Dr. Maloof and I and several others in our department had kind of a big philosophical conversation about, do we write the list first? I mean, do we work with teachers and create that list first, or do we adopt the curriculum first? And at the end of it, we decided that we would adopt the curriculum first, because that would make it easier as we select those texts to already have a wide range of texts that we have copyright for, that we have the online piece for. And so now it's not to say that it's extensive, and we're not saying that everything has to come out of these, but we know that this is a good place to start, and there might be one or two things that will move through a process and be able to add to that list. But this gives us poetry, plays, prose, novels, poems. Did I get all 5 of them right? The 5 different genres that we'd really like to see each of our 7 through 12-year-olds read 12 graders read something from each one of those genres across the district, so that every 7th grader has read this poem, and every 8th grader has read, this poem, this play, this short story, and that we're able to build on that experience in our district, but also that we're able to ensure the high quality and diversity of that. So that is the next piece of this that will happen simultaneously as we get into the program. Next year, we'll also be working with our teacher teams, both in grades and as a 7-12 group, to come up with those, and that will be a dynamic list of authors that we're reading in those years, so that we can really ensure that high quality experience. Thank you for bringing that up again. That's very definitely been a part of this conversation as we've set this up.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. Thanks for bringing that up. Thank you for this work. One thing that comes to me is from the state board is an expectation that our board understands the curriculum adoption process. And so thanks to such a comprehensive conversation, that we can honestly say as board members that we know how our school district adopts curriculum, and that we take stakeholder input very seriously and get that input, and we have professionals, experts, selecting the curriculum so that our students have access to really high quality materials. And so thank you for this presentation, and it's nice to be able to confidently say, yes, we do that in a way that I can really be proud of in Salt Lake. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. All right, now we'll move to our discussion agenda. Thank you, Dr. Hall. Dr. Maloof, thank you. On our discussion agenda, the first item for discussion is the South Park Academy State application. And as you know, we have talked about what we've decided not to call the prison school. And what we've learned is that it's currently called the South Park Academy. So this state application is for the South Park Academy. And Superintendent, do you want to mention this, or is this something that, Alan, you have information about for us?
So this application is really to transfer this school from Canyons to the Salt Lake City School District. One note of change, the address on the form attached is the Horizonte address. We need to update that to actually be the state prison address where the school will be before we submit this application.
Okay. So what you are looking for from us is action to approve this state application with a change of address as it is, but with the change of address to the prison address.
Yep.
Any discussion to this application, Christy?
So we really can't change the name.
Right. The state says the school already exists. We're just going to transfer it from the Canyon School District to the Salt Lake City
I
School
just
District.
think that when they named it, it just makes me wonder,
South Park.
South Park,
Yeah.
I mean, even I know South Park, so it's just, yeah. Okay, if we can't change the name, then,
So,
Think of some very interesting mascots.
Oh.
oh, jeez. Okay, well, if there's no real discussion about this, everybody's had an opportunity to look at the application, and we've discussed this previously. I would entertain a motion to move this to action.
So moved.
Okay, so motion by Christie to move the South Park Academy State application to action. Do I have a second?
Second the motion.
Seconded by Nate. Any discussion to moving this to action? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote, beginning with board members. Kennedy.
Catherine Kennedy, yes.
Nate Salazar, yes.
Melissa Ford, yes.
Christy Sweat, yes.
Bryce Williams, yes.
Jenny Sika, yes.
Okay. Thank you, board members. Now we'll go ahead and take action on the South Park Academy State application. I am willing to accept a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Bryce, seconded by Catherine. Let me just clarify, the motion is that we approve the South Park Academy State application as it's presented to us with the change of the location address to the prison site. I motion by Bryce and second by Catherine. Any discussion to the motion? Okay, we'll start the vote with you, Board Member Williams.
Bryce Williams, yes.
Jenny Sika, yes.
Catherine Kennedy, yes.
Nate Salazar, yes.
Melissa Ford, yes.
Christy Sweat, yes.
Okay, thank you, board members. And we'll move to the next item on our discussion agenda, which is the student board member for 2022-23. And we have both board members present with us. Board members, you've had an opportunity to read through the attachment to the agenda, and would like to welcome the recommendation of Lydia May. Lydia's joining us remotely, so wave to Lydia on the screen. And Anika Rao, who's with us and led us in the pledge as the what are we calling you? The alternate or reserve? The reserve student. Thank you, Anika. As board members, as you know, this process reflects work by the policy subcommittee to make some changes to how those board members are selected, which meant you guys had to apply, and it was a little bit more rigorous process potentially, and we're grateful to have you both West High students. Excited to have you here with us. If there's any discussion to this, I'm happy to entertain that from board members now. or we can move this to action.
I move that we accept the the students suggested by the application process.
Can we first just make a motion to move it to action? We'll
Okay.
just, can we just,
Sure.
we'll just do it quickly. If you want to make both motions.
I move that we move this to action.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Catherine, seconded by Christy. We're moving the student board member recommendation to action, starting with you, Christy.
Christy Sweat, yes.
Melissa Ford, yes.
Nate Salazar, yes.
Catherine Kennedy, yes.
Jenny Sika, yes.
Bryce Williams, yes.
Okay. Now it's on action.
Okay. I move that we accept the suggested students of Lydia May as the student board member and Annika Rao as the reserve student for our student board members for the 2022-23 school year with great excitement and enthusiasm.
I love it. With great excitement and emotion. I love it. Enthusiasm. Okay, thank
And
you.
emotion.
And emotion. All right. Any discussion to the motion? Nate?
Yeah, I just want to say welcome and thank you. I don't know if I should look at the camera or if I should look at the screen, but nonetheless, welcome. Super excited to be working alongside of you this next year, and I think it's a really wonderful opportunity and experience for both of you, and I just love that our board and a lot of boards in the state, if not around the country, have this opportunity for students. You've been well represented by Dottie in previous years and a little bit this year when Yadira couldn't be here. So I just, you bring a lot to the table, and that perspective from students and on the ground in the classroom and in our schools is so, so important in our decision-making process. So just welcome. Thank you for stepping up and being true leaders in your school communities in our city, and really excited to work with you.
Thank you, Nate. You should know, both of you, that you come highly recommended by the committee that selected you. Lydia, there was specific comments about your research of the position and your willingness to take on the responsibility. So thank you for that. And we would like to include you as soon as our next board meeting. So we'll invite you to that as well. And if the board feels comfortable, maybe we can have Anika come sit with us right now, if you'd like to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, but we need to vote on this, so let's vote. Starting with you, board member.
Is it Anika or Annika? Anika, okay, thank you.
Okay, we're starting with you, board
Catherine
member.
Kennedy, yes.
Let's see,
Nate Salazar, yes.
Melissa Ford, yes.
Christy Sweat, yes.
Bryce Williams, yes.
Jenny Sika, yes.
All right, come join us, Anika. It's official. Anika's my neighbor. So I see her walking Alice's dog all the time. I love it. Okay, welcome, welcome. All right, next up on discussion, we have a contract with the Utah Transit Authority, and I'm super excited about this. Thank you, Alan. I'm going to let you talk about it, but I just feel like this is so great.
So James Yappius with the Salt Lake Education Foundation, along with UTA and Salt Lake City, have been developing a program where we can offer all of our students and employees a bus pass. So the financials of this, so the school district has always been putting in approximately $200,000 to buy student bus passes for their transportation to and from. So we've committed that same $200,000, so really no increase to the school district expenditures into this program. The foundation has committed $79,000, and Salt Lake City's committed $100,000, and then UTA's offered the various discounts and ways to help this. So with board approval, we will finalize this contract. It needs to go through final legal review first, and then we'll get that going. I believe those passes will be available starting mid-July, I think is our goal.
That's great. Thank you. Thanks for that, Alan. Do I have any discussion from board members about this? Okay. Seeing none.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
thank
thank you.
you.
And, this is something that Heather Bennett wanted so much, and she talked about always. And so I feel like thank you for doing this, because I think it was really important to her that this happened, and I just want to remember her for advocating for this, and thank you for doing it.
Thanks, Catherine.
We'll thank James. He put in a lot of work.
Yeah, James has been working on it for a while. So thank you to James Yapius. And and hopefully, Anika, you spread the word, right? You've got a bus pass for everybody. Yeah, I love that. Okay, if there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion to move this to action.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Christy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Who do I choose? That was simultaneous.
Kennedy.
Seconded by Catherine. All right. We'll go ahead and vote on moving this to action, beginning with Board Member Williams.
Bryce Williams, yes.
Jenny Seeker, yes.
Catherine Kennedy, yes.
Nate Salazar, yes.
Melissa Ford, yes.
Christy Sweat, yes.
Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and take action on the UTA, then the contract with Utah Transit Authority. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve the contract with Utah Transit Authority.
Okay, motion by Christy,
I'll second this time.
second by Nate. Any discussion to the motion? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote, beginning with Board Member Sweat.
Christy Sweat, yes.
Melissa Ford, yes.
Nate Salazar, yes.
Catherine Kennedy, yes.
Jenny Seeker, yes.
Bryce Williams, yes.
Thank you, board members. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and move to the open classroom charter renewal. And looks like we've got some people here to talk about this. So, yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a while since I've been here.
I know
so
it has been.
I'm excited to be here.
Okay.
So thanks. Have you heard of death by PowerPoint? I love you guys, so I did not bring PowerPoint.
Thank you.
And also, I just
great.
want to be able to talk about the open classroom, and then I want to hear your questions. I hope you had a minute to review, or at least skim our
It was so
lengthy
good
charter.
to read. Yeah.
Very good.
If you have, then you've learned a lot about our mission, our vision, what we're all about. I guess I'd just like to highlight the process has been very thorough to write the renewal. We've taken about 2.5 years on a 5-year renewal. We've spent 2.5 to work on our renewal. Teacher Amanda has been on the committee. Parent Joe Gibbs is here also as part of our parent leadership team. The big changes that we looked at are to make our parent co-oping commitment a softer opportunity language, because the world is changing in general, and especially with COVID.
Right.
And we want our school model that really focuses on family engagement to be available to all families, not just those families who have a stay-at-home parent and can be in the school 1 or more days per week. So that's a big change. And then also we adjusted our governance structure to make sure the parent voice is very strong at our charter school, and that we meet all of the requirements with state and district policy for shared governance. And otherwise, I just want to say we are really proud to be a district-sponsored charter. We've got a foot in both worlds, and we're proud to be part of Salt Lake District, and I think a really excellent choice program that's attractive to families and sustainable. We hope, just like every school, COVID has brought a few bumps along the way, but our enrollment is staying strong. Those of you who know what I used to do in my former job know that I'm up to my elbows in our raw data after the testing, and our testing results look really good this year. Last year, I think everyone had to take a pause and accept what it was, but I'm feeling really confident about our results this year, having our kids back in. So with that, I'd like to invite the people I brought to just make a few comments about their experience at the open classroom, and then if you have questions, we'll entertain those. So, Joe, would you start?
I'm Joe Gibbs. I serve on the executive board for the open classroom. We've been there 14 years as a family, and what drew us there and what keeps us there is the commitment of the parents, the staff, the administration, the students, all working together in a learning community. And so that's what we're continuing.
My name is Amanda Sutton. I am a first and second grade teacher at the Open Classroom, 13 years, and my youngest goes to kindergarten. Oh no, just finished kindergarten there. Oh, don't tell him I said he was still a kindergartner. He's a first grader now. I love how involved the parents are. I love that they know who their children's friends are. I love that I have so much contact with the parents. It's very easy for me to talk to them about their child's growth and development. And I'm also really excited that we were able to rework the wording on the parent commitment. It was never a requirement, but a suggestion. But the 3 hours per week just did not work, and I feel like many families didn't get past that part when they read about our school, and making it a much softer option where they're always welcome, the door is welcome, come for 6 hours if you want, but we wanted to be open and available to all families in the district and the valley. So I'm excited about how we've rewritten the charter.
Thanks,
President Ford, if I may, from visiting the school and the listening sessions, one of the things that I loved hearing about Open Campus was that many of the staff members were parents and were committed to the school and loved what the school was doing for their children and their families. And then they committed to work for the school. And that's beautiful to me. And I thought it was necessary to share that.
Thank you. Superintendent. No, I think what you're, go ahead,
Oh, no,
Nate.
go ahead.
No, go ahead, Nate.
I was
was
just- I
thinking
thought
we
you
were
were-
done, so
Oh.
good. Go ahead.
Okay. So I just want to say too, Christine, thank you so much for having me at the school. About a week and a half ago. I just want my colleagues to know that I had the chance to go up there on Physics Day. I didn't get to see the egg drop. It was a little later than the time that I had. But nonetheless. Oh, did it?
But some did.
I
Very
could-
impressive.
I could give some pointers. I share with Christine that I won one of the egg drops in my school career. But nonetheless, I know I am bragging now. But nonetheless, I do want to brag about the Open Classroom. I mean, it was just brilliant to be there, number one. And then to couple that with your charter application, you're fulfilling all of those elements within that application. Some of the notes, I mean, just the outreach that you do, just the defined roles that you have of the principal, your head teacher. I love the staffing patterns and that the age groups are mixed up and that students have opportunities to teach and guide curriculum, parent involvement. I mean, it's just a beautiful, beautiful place. And to see that in action the day that I was there, how engaged all the students were with their projects. Amanda, we were going to go into your classroom, but looked very engaged with some things, so we didn't disrupt you all. But I did get a chance to visit the classroom with Christine, and I just think it's a shining star in the charter world, and certainly as a district charter with our school district. So I think a lot of our best practices in the district could be gleaned from the work that you all are doing there. So I'm 100% in support of approving this tonight, and just want to thank you. So I don't have any questions for y'all, but just wanted to share my experience and how excited I am that we're working together.
Great, thank you, and thanks for visiting.
Yeah, thanks for going. That's awesome. Catherine?
I just want to say that I really enjoy attending the Open Classroom SEC meetings. I haven't been for the last couple of months. I think we've had school board things or conflicts on those days, but just really think it's a wonderful community. I'm always amazed at how the gravitas with which you take all the jobs with the SEC has to do. I mean, it's very serious, and how inclusive you are about people's opinions. So it's a big process and a long process for you, but you really are so gracious, and you have so many good techniques. Really, I think a lot of people could learn from the techniques that the Open Classroom uses. And I just want to give a shout out for Amanda, who seems to be everywhere all the time.
I know, it's true.
It's really amazing that you do so much for our schools, so thank you. And thank you, Principal. Yeah.
All right, thank you. I hope you hear that we're proud of the work you're doing. Enjoyed reading about the Open Classroom and the opportunities. I know Board Member Kennedy's, it's in your school's in her precinct, and she's very supportive. And it's great to hear Nate's experience there, and I'm proud of the work you're doing as well. I would be open to entertaining a motion to move the application for renewal, the Salt Lake City Open Classroom Charter School, to action.
So moved.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. If there's no discussion to moving this to action. Let's go ahead and vote, beginning with Board Member Kennedy.
Catherine Kennedy, yes.
Nate Salazar, yes.
I should mention, it looks like Mohammed has had to leave us. Melissa Ford, yes.
Christy Sweat, yes.
Bryce Williams, yes.
Jenny Sika, yes.
Right, thank you. Now it's on action. For board action is the open classroom charter renewal. Do I have a motion to take action?
I move that we accept the open classroom charter renewal with appreciation and thanks to the committee that put it together.
Second the motion.
Okay, motion by Catherine, seconded by Nate. I like it when Catherine makes no motions because they always have a motion and thank you, and it's awesome. Is there any discussion to this motion? Okay, you've got 2.5 years to get started on another process. Let's go ahead and vote on approving this, beginning with you, Board Member Williams.
Bryce Williams, yes.
Jenny Sika, yes.
Catherine Kennedy, yes.
Nate Salazar, yes.
Melissa Ford, yes.
Christy Sweat, yes.
All right, well done. Thank you for your work.
You are last before our policies on our agenda.
Okay. So thanks to the good work of the policy subcommittee, we have several policies to discuss, several new policies and several adjustments that we have given to the board policy subcommittee to review, beginning with board policy B1. I'd love to give opportunity for Executive Director of Policy and Legal Services, Ms. Christina Kindle, to come to the board table because she loves the spotlight. And to the policy subcommittee, thank you for the work you're doing. If you want to speak to this directly, I think board members have had an opportunity to read through it. Looks to me like you're just basically removing the G1, the administrative responsibilities, but if board members want to discuss that, or you want to tell us exactly what that is.
So I understand that number 9 is board policy G1, but it ties directly to number 5, board policy B1. So in subcommittee, we discussed the fact that we thought that the two most important components of G1 could be placed in different locations. And so the part about the superintendent's ability to create committees, we thought felt best fit within board policy B1 in that specific section about the board's relationship with the superintendent, which is where we placed that. And then what you'll see in the memo related to board policy G1 is I spoke with Logan Hall, the Executive Director of Human Resource Services, regarding taking the component about, taking the component of the responsibilities and rights of building administrators, namely principals, that paragraph, and placing it in the SLCSD written understanding. And he agreed, and he talked with the SLCSD leadership, and they were supportive of placing that in there. So what the superintendent and I would like to have happen would be that we would delete G1 as a current board policy, and have the language moved into those two different places. And I'm not sure, some of the board members expressed, on subcommittee expressed that they thought that moving that superintendent piece to B1 was appropriate and a good idea, but they still definitely wanted the entire board to weigh in, as of course there were some concerns about removing board policy G1 in its entirety.
Thank you, Ms. Kindle.
Of course.
Policy subcommittee, do you want to speak to your conversation about it?
I thought Christina did a really
She did do a great job, didn't she?
She
Do we
did a
ask her
good
to do
job.
it again?
Yeah. She did a great job.
Okay. I appreciate the logic behind what you are proposing. I think perhaps I would recommend before deleting G1 entirely, which I support, but may put something in there that said, see these places, so that if people who are accustomed, I don't know how many people are accustomed to looking at our policies, but they should be, and if they are, they could find direction on where that policy is now, so that it's not.
So our practice would be on the website, when it would typically be linked there, we would put an indication that where it had been removed to. So we would actually delete it, but we would put that
Right.
information
Right.
there.
Okay, yeah, so that's a better way for me to put what I was trying to say. Just direct people where to go. Okay. Any other discussion to this policy? Okay, what I'd like to recommend maybe is that we just quickly discuss all the policies and then just move them all to action. So if the board's amenable to that, we'll just move forward with board policies G18 and G19. It's the complaint resolution policy. As you know, what the language in there that you've seen attached is, and I appreciate the policy subcommittee working on this, just gives the board a process for when complaints and if complaints are filed against the two employees that report directly to the board, which is the superintendent and the business administrator. That was something that was missing in our policy administrative procedures before, and I appreciate the work that Ms. Kindle has put into it in the policy subcommittee and reviewing it, and support the process and changes that are placed in those administrative procedures.
And I'd just like to clarify that this was a joint effort between the board's attorney, Joan Andrews, and I
Okay.
to create all these revisions that I presented to the board policy subcommittee.
Thank you. So thank you to you and to Joan for putting together that, it's a good process. And then bringing it to the policy subcommittee, and then having you discuss it, and then bringing it to the board. I think it helps, and I think it helps give direction to the board in what to do in those circumstances. So I do appreciate that. Is there any discussion from the board about this policy? Christy?
I think I just want to add also my thanks, to Christina and Joan as we worked through this. And the conversation that three of us had with them was really the authority lies with the board, in how this is dealt with, but yet in consult, with our attorney. So I think that we tried to make that really clear, in the language. I thought that both of them brought, a great section to us that we had very little editing to. So I appreciated, the work that went into it and the conversation that the three of us had with them.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. So if there's no other discussion right now on board policies G18 and G19, we'll move to board policy P2, which is a new policy on paid parental leave. And do you want to speak to that, Ms. Kindle?
Sure. Obviously, this is a result of new legislation as well as negotiations with our employee groups. And the reason that, and I'll take responsibility for the 6 months versus the 12 months. I was looking at the legislation, and the legislation talked about 6 months, and so that's why it was there. But I did edit it at the last minute, so it reflects the 12 months, which
Yes,
is what
thank you.
The agreement was with the employee groups. So that is in there. All the rest of it tracks exactly what's in the statute. It is on your agenda today because we need to have it in place by July 1. And so the board has on occasion with new policies and procedures, and that's why the procedures got written at the same time and presented. Normally we would do one and then the other one, but was to allow the board to have potentially 2 readings if you needed them before they were approved and enacted before July 1.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
That makes sense. It's typically with brand new policies like this, we would take 2 meetings to review them. Of course, that's up to the board, but
I will just add that
gives
from
us
the
time.
committee, we vetted this and talked about it extensively, that we felt like with the time crunch, that if we wanted to not do the 2, that the committee would feel comfortable with that.
Okay, with a recommendation from the committee, I accept that. I never want to be, to rush something that might need extra time, but this is something that we've been anticipating as a board and looking forward to. I think it makes sense to me to have it fully in place by the timeline. Any other discussion to this policy?
I'm just glad we're here.
Okay, the next board policy for discussion is board policy P9. And it's also a new one. It's also based on new legislation.
No, it is not.
It's not.
It was a board member request. We had discussed it at
that's
prior
right.
board meetings.
That's right.
The need
That's
for
right.
this. So basically, teacher stipends remain for the most part as they are. They stay with the building administrator to determine, but administrator stipends would all be approved through the business administrator prior to issuance, and then the board would learn about any of those administrator stipends that were issued in a board report.
In a board
And it's all laid out as to when administrator stipends would be appropriate and when they would not be, and when teacher stipends would be appropriate and when they would not be. So, and again, this was all placed on your agenda with the possibility of you having 2 readings or not. But this one, unlike P2, does not have a deadline associated with it.
Okay. Any discussion to this? I might feel more comfortable with more time for this one.
I think that
but-
we would want you to have more time for this. We thought
Mhm.
that, this is something that we have been talking about. Appreciate Christina's work in putting this together. I think that as the fiduciary, our fiduciary responsibilities with the budget, that this was something that was missing, in our policies. And so the superintendent, agreed that we needed to have clear direction on what that looked like. And so I would say, yes, we need to bring it back for a second reading.
Okay.
I mean,
Just
not
wanna-
I, the committee. Not me.
Without a time crunch, it's something I would
Yeah.
love for an opportunity to hear from people on. But reading through it, I agree. It seems pretty straightforward and like a really good idea. Any other thoughts on this or discussion about P9? Okay.
So would you like it to come back on consent, or would you like it to come back on discussion again?
I think we ought to discuss it
Okay.
just one more time, yeah. And then, on a discussion agenda so we can take action on it.
Okay.
All right, the final policy for us to review is Board Policy G1. That was what was referenced in the discussion about the Board Policy B1 and the potential of removing it. Is there more discussion to that? I think what I was hearing was a willingness from the board to delete this policy and have the pieces of it placed part in B1 and part in the SLOSA written agreement. Okay, all right. I would entertain a motion now to move the board policy. Oh, stay where you are, Christina. I'm kidding. It was kind of funny.
Pretty funny.
All right, thank you.
Quick.
Thank you so much to our Executive Director of Policy and Legal Services, Ms. Christina Kindle. I will entertain a motion to move our board policies B1, G18-19, P2, P9, and G1 to action.
I thought P9 was not going to go to action.
Sorry, not P9 to
Okay.
action.
All right.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Bryce with the second. The motion is to move B1, G18-19, P2, and G1 to action. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none, we'll start vote with Board Member Sweat.
Christy Sweat, yes.
Melissa Ford, yes.
Nate Salazar, yes.
Catherine Kennedy, yes.
Jenny Sika, yes.
Bryce Williams, yes.
Okay. So now our board policies, B1, G18-19, P2, and G1 are on action.
So I move to approve Board Policy B1, Board Policy G18-19, Board Policy P2, and the deletion, did we say that already, the deletion of G1?
B1.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. So the motion is that we approve B1, we approve G18 and G19, we approve B2, and we delete G1. Do I have a second to the motion?
Second.
Okay. Is there discussion to the motion?
Just want to thank the policy subcommittee. It was one of my favorite committees to be on. One of the 2 favorite, I guess, that we. I definitely do like it.
It was in the top there, Alan. Definitely in the top 2.
No offense, Alan.
Okay. If there's no discussion, we'll go ahead and vote, beginning with Board Member Kennedy.
Catherine Kennedy, yes.
Nate Salazar, yes.
Melissa Ford, yes.
Christy Sweat, yes.
Bryce Williams, yes.
Jenny Sika, yes.
Okay, thank you. That concludes our discussion agenda and our action agenda, and we'll move to board member reports, if board members have reports. Anybody? Bryce?
Yes, I just wanted to thank everyone at the district, everyone who was part of graduations. It was really an awesome experience to be there and attend as many of those as possible. And I just wanted to give a special thanks to the administration at Salt Lake Center for Science Education for allowing me to speak at their graduation, particularly Brittany Powell, Ralph Davis, and Nikki Hack. It was great to work with all of them, and just wanted to share it was really just a touching and unique experience. I got to sit next to my 7th grade math teacher, and we both were able to give speeches that evening, and that just was a special thing that I'll never forget, so I wanted to thank them.
Oh, what a neat thing. Thank you, Bryce. Do you have any other reports from board members?
Mine was,
Go ahead, Chris.
I would just like a copy of Jenny's speech that she gave.
It was grammatically
I would
correct.
like to do it right now.
Okay, please.
No.
Two simple truths.
Just know, Jenny, that's happened to me, so, you know.
Also, it was the best speech.
And you just wing it. Everyone says that, you know. It was the best speech, so.
That was awesome.
I just think that, yeah, I'm just going to echo what Bryce said. I mean, it was a great, I was glad that I was able to attend Highlands, and I talked a little bit about this at Highlands graduation, that I had a full circle of life that night because my granddaughter, Piper, graduated from kindergarten that day. And, you know, it's like one door opens, another one closes, you know, and here she's walking into, you know, the next 12 years. And it was a really great night. It was. So anyway,
I love
it's just one of
it.
those perks.
I
that we
know,
get.
it is. It's a highlight for sure. Nate?
Yeah, mine was all along the lines of graduation as well. I had the chance to attend many of them on Friday, and had the opportunity to speak at SPA's graduation, which I have done for 2 years in a row now, which
I
is just
know.
amazing and brilliant. And, you know, similar to Bryce, you know, one of my teacher's granddaughters actually graduated from SPA that night,
That's
and
so
was really
awesome.
honored to give a speech there. So just, you know, huge, you know, congratulations to all the graduates. You know, a huge thank you to all the teachers and administrators, district, our board, who you know plays a part and a role in very different ways, you know, in making sure that our students walk across that stage, and of course, you know, thanks to all of our elementary and middle school students who are moving on to the next grade, and I'm just really excited that we have the opportunities that we do for our students in this district.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate all the thanks you guys have given. I have a couple issues actually I'd like to bring up in my board member report. I've been hearing from some teachers at one of the schools that I represent, that superintendent, that's Bonneville Elementary, and they're talking to me about the start and end times of their day, and complying with the board adopted 2 times in the morning and in the afternoon, but on Friday, wanting to have their release time being a little bit earlier and some flexibility with that time. And just want to say my review of the board decision was to allow flexibility where possible in that planning. And so I would, without, you know, I mean, it's obviously not my decision to make, but I just want a reminder that the board did want that flexibility in letting schools decide as much as possible their end times. And with Bonneville, I think they're looking at, you know, maybe an hour difference, which eats into that planning time for those teachers. And so I just want to be really careful about that, because I know how important that planning time is for those teachers. And then also hearing from some classrooms from parents in my community who are in projected classrooms that will have over 30 students next year. And as we know, this year especially, a lot of our elementary school classrooms were really quite small. And so in those classes, the students will go from a class that has like 16 kids to now in third grade to in fourth grade over 30. So I would love to have us look at what we might be able to use in terms of COVID relief funding to support that smaller class size. Well, I just, knowing what we've been through for the last couple of years, it seems like too huge a jump to go from 14, 15 kids a class to 30. And I feel like there might be some creative ways we can solve that. So I'd just love to hear how those conversations go, and just know that I support the work that you're doing in that, and just I'm hoping we can have those conversations with those schools, and really all schools. I really hope we don't have elementary school classrooms that are over 30 for third or fourth graders or anywhere. I also want to make sure that to deal with. So if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for that.
Most definitely.
And then I'll go ahead and jump on the full gratitude train. I really appreciate the work that everybody's done through this year. We've accomplished a lot. We've navigated some rough seas. And then I come to graduation and I remember this is why. It's such a treat. And it was my last opportunity to speak at a graduation, and I could certainly choose to attend them in the future, and hopefully will, but took full advantage and attended 5 graduations. And I think I just smiled through the whole thing. What a treat. It was so fun, and I actually really love about our school district the personality that is evident in each and every one of those graduations. You walk into bagpipes at Highland, and you're at Highland's graduation, and there's traditions and a culture there that I love, and East is always East. It's where my kids graduated, and it's kind of its own thing, and I love that too. And it was super fun to see Jenny's speech and to have her hug her daughter. Those are the moments that I will carry with me as I reflect on the service I've tried to provide to this district. So thank you. And now, if there's no other board reports, I'll turn the time to our superintendent for your report.
Along with our board members, I want to congratulate the class of 2022 and everyone that helped them to get there. This is a major milestone, and every year around this time it takes me back to my high school graduation and how I felt. And so I get to live through the new graduates. So it's always a great time, but I don't want to forget the parents and teachers and other staff that helped our students to get there. I want to thank the staff for a great school year. It was a great school year, tough school year, but a great school year. And I want to thank those who have agreed to work summer school. Summer school did start today. There were a few wrinkles. School leadership and performance is all over that, and asked staff to share other things that they might not have gotten. They're working on debriefing and making sure that each day is a better day. So I want to thank those students and families that chose to participate and attend summer school, and our staff that is working summer school. It will definitely benefit our students. So thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. So that concludes our published agenda for the night. So before I adjourn the meeting, though, I would like to entertain a motion to convene a closed executive session. I'll entertain that motion now. For the purposes of character, competence, physical, mental health of an individual, and/or deployment of security personnel, devices, or systems, as well as litigations, negotiations, and/or property.
I'm just looking for my,
So
Got
moved. On June 7th at 8:49 p.m., I move that we enter a closed executive session for the purpose of litigation, negotiations, and/or property, and/or character, professional competence, and/or physical or mental health of an individual, and/or deployment of security personnel, devices, or systems.
Okay. I have a motion to have a second. Bryce? Okay. We'll go ahead and vote, beginning with you, Board Member Williams.
Bryce Williams, yes.
Jenny Sika, yes.
Catherine Kennedy, yes.
Nate Salazar, yes.
Melissa Ford, yes.
Christy Sweat, yes.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and adjourn this public meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for sticking it out.
Yes, yes, very much.
It's nice to meet you. Excited to work with you.
Yeah, me too.
I think you need to.
Thank you so
Take care.
much.
I know, thank you for coming. Yep.
Bye, Lydia.
Bye, Lydia, thanks.
Bye, Lydia.
Bye,
Thank
Lydia.
you. We're excited to have you. Thanks, Lisa.